My guest tonight is Randall. Randall is an old friend of mine from the car business. He has sold everything from Toyotas to biofuels to water filtration systems. Randall was one of my sales managers in the car business at my first selling job at a Toyota dealership in 2003. And then 12 years later, I was his manager in 2015. So it kind of came around full circle. I'll start with a quick story. So I was a brand new sales guy, and shortly after I started, Randall was brought in as a new sales manager. And I guess for those not from the business, the sales manager's job is to manage salespeople and recruit and train and manage them and get results out of salespeople. And something that I did for a lot of years as well. But anyways, it's tough to come into a dealership as a new sales manager. It can be a little bit of a hostile environment because A, there's probably a few guys on that sales floor that thought they deserved the job. And B, nobody knows what to expect from you. What's this guy going to be like? And I have two memories of my early experiences with Randall in 2003. First one, I don't know why this stuck in my head, but the first one, the first one is, I was at my computer and we had kind of cubicles, but no privacy, right? So anyone walking behind me could see what was on my screen. I don't know. I was playing some game or I was, dog fucking. Like, I don't even know what I was doing. Randall walks behind me and I look over. I'm like, oh shit, this is a new manager. And Randall says, Alt Tab.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Story I was going to remember. Alt Tab.
What do you mean Alt Tab? He goes, oh, if you just on your keyboard, if you hit Alt Tab, it'll just go to the next screen.
Flash to another screen.
So if someone can see your screen, you just change it really quick so they don't know what you're looking at. I was like, oh, thanks, I'll know that next time. So I was like, okay, this guy's all right. You're
probably still using it. Hopefully, you think of me every time you Alt Tab.
Yeah, that was the first time. I didn't know that existed, but that's a life skill now.
It is now. Yeah.
The other memory I had was I don't remember where it came from, but he said, Randall said, hey, if you want to look like you're busy, just get a file, any file, and just walk fast across the showroom and carry a file, and people will think you're busy. And so, anyways, a couple of good icebreakers from a new manager to a young sales guy. So, Randall, what are you selling today?
Well, first, I always want to show my cards. I always want, if I can take somebody young and give them some kind of a life skill that will benefit them sometime, I'm all about it, for sure. Because I definitely have people that I've known for 30, 40 years, and they say, oh, you taught me this, or what have you. Nice. But yeah, I used to work with a girl, and her name was Pam, and I'll leave it at that. And she just marched like she was on a mission, with hair flying behind her, a day timer in her arm, and loose white papers. And I said, where are you going? She says, I'm walking fast with a paper in my hand. I said, yeah, but what are you doing? She says, I'm walking fast with a paper in my hand. And it was to look busy, right? Because activity can perhaps influence productivity at some time. But that was funny.
It works.
I forgot about the Alt Tab thing. So I came to that job without ever having been in the automotive industry, which was really peculiar. So I had not sold cars in the past, but I knew the guy that was eventually both of our bosses. We weren't buddies, initially. And he said, when I came to drop in and see him, and they had an ad up that said, if we need you more than you need us, if you're ready for the best job, that you'll ever have in your entire life, come in and see us. And I popped in there and he said, what you doing? I said, I'm just coming in to apply for the job. And he said, well, what do you know? I said, and I gave my resume, but I had done so many other things. I've kind of made a list because I'm a listy of everything I've ever done since I was 11 years old. I hate to confess, right? So it's pumping gas. So I know where I was for most every minute. But he said, if you can substantiate all of this stuff, which I did, I kind of brought in a briefcase and a handful of binders, and he hired me. Anyway, well, after the personality profiles,
Right. I remember that they had some screening processes there. And, I always wondered about that because I think, so what Randall's referring to, this place that this dealership, they had one of the partners who was our boss, who was the general sales manager, was, and I'll put it in a nice way, eccentric, maybe.
Yeah, that's good. He'd like that. I think he would.
Yeah, he would take that. Anyways, he insisted that everybody that worked there had to complete this aptitude test, and it was like a 24 question, like a little mini IQ test. You got to complete the pattern or complete the sentence or whatever.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
remember I was like, "Oh, test, okay, no problem." And I got through it, and I brought it. I'm like, "I'm done." He's like, "Oh, there's still more time. It's time." I'm like, "Well, yeah, well, I'm done." Are you
Yeah.
sure? Yeah. And I don't know what my score was, but I know I pretty much aced that test, and I think I got
Yeah.
away with a lot of shit because
Yeah.
because this dumb test indicated that I was smart. So I
Yeah.
probably slacked off and missed a lot of work and fucked around a lot, and probably got away with it because they thought I was one of the smart ones.
You were one of the smart ones. I've told people many times over the years, this is the only guy that I've ever met who's gone through automotive management
Oh yeah.
college, if you will, and you are still. I think most of us, um, we learned it on the street, so to speak, or learned by being heaved in to
Yeah,
the
I was one of
crowd
those
and so
weirdos
on.
that actually wanted to work in that business. Most people fall into it, but yeah, it is what it
See,
is. Yeah, the aptitude test. So you came in there without experience in the car business, but with a pretty complete resume of sales stuff. And then did you feel like it was? Did you feel like you were going into a hostile environment?
yes. Yeah, startups, entrepreneurial things for sure. Grew up in a family company where you kind of had to know all pieces of it and so on. And so whenever I've done anything, I always call it marbles in the bowl. Everybody had a blue bag with a Crown Royal bag with marbles, I think, as a young kid. And we dumped them all over the rug. I needed to dump them in the bowl so I could see them all. And so I needed to see all the pieces. And so I could usually piece together, a new job scenario, fairly easily, and I'm a modeler, not a pioneer. So I used to say about my boss that he was a pioneer, and even in my interview, a month after I applied, I was sitting with the big boss, the guy that's the owner there now today, and his opening question to me was, "So what's the deal with you and modeling?" And he picked it up off of the disc profile. And I said, I would rather sit and watch and listen and learn, sit at the feet of somebody who's masterful and who's at the top of their game and learn from them than me, crashing my way through and, burning customers per se or burning salespeople. I'd rather watch, listen, learn. All the information's there. Be a good student of that and such. So, but yeah, so I had other experiences anyway, and they let me in as a manager. So interesting. I had great experience. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't remember how long you were there. I only lasted about a year and then decided
Yeah.
that sales wasn't for me and went and got a really shitty manual labor job, which lasted a few more months. And yeah, hard manual labor outside in the cold. And I didn't last very long at that. It didn't take me long to decide, okay, maybe I should give this sales thing
Yeah.
another go. It wasn't
Yes.
so bad. Now you originally came from, more of a hands-on job and fell into like a sales opportunity. Is that right?
Well, I had some sales experience for sure and some team building experience for sure. And immediately before I had come to work with the Toyota dealership, I had been involved for, I would say, a year and a bit with a land bank. So I had a guy that I'd met in the sales industry years earlier who had 15 doors, real estate properties, 15 doors. So a fourplex is 4 doors, a duplex is
Mm-hmm.
2 doors. And I thought that's pretty amazing. And he was certainly one of the wealthier guys I knew. And I said to him, "Why don't you do a deal so we can get all of our friends involved? Why don't we use your brilliance and our money and let's go and do a big deal?" And he connected with me in February '02, and he said, "I've got our deal." And he said, "It fits my criteria. Meet me at Tim Hortons." And he said, "It's in the pathway of development. It's in a new community. It's near main thoroughfares, and it's a motivated vendor." He had all of his criteria picked out. And so between the two of us, we set up a limited liability partnership, but again, completely off in left field from what I do. And we ended up putting together 50 friends, and everybody put in a bunch of money, and everybody got their money back. We basically bought the land, held it for 3.5 years, and sold it, and everybody got double their money back, which was really great. So I'd come from there, and before that, I had come from a contract with a home builder. And again, he was a friend of mine that I'd known. And he was basically building really beautiful houses over in the Discovery Ridge area and so on. Spectacular houses, really meticulous guy. But he was tracking everything with yellow sticky tags on a 4x8 board. And I mean, it was somewhat organized and so on. But because I'd grown up in a family mechanical contracting company, I understood scheduling and jobs and multiple teams and that kind of a thing. as well. So he basically hired me for a year to help put in systems and processes. And so I found some industry specific software that said, look, here, you can say to your customers who say, I don't like the closet here, I want it moved over 6 inches. You can show them this. It's called a change order. And now they understand that they're going to pay you to move that closet over. So it was just a nice guy syndrome. And anyway, building houses with sticky tags and scheduling and everything. So yes, this is all completely wildly different than the car industry, but that's
Yeah.
none of them were very traditional. Let's say they're all very untraditional. So,
Coincidentally, I manage my business with post-it notes.
and you know what? As long as it
Well,
works
a
for you,
combination of things, but
yeah,
I'm not building houses either.
yeah. But as
Um,
long as it's visual, you
so
know,
the title of the episode is Car Finder.
yes,
So this is what you're doing now. So
yeah,
you've taken your years of experience working in car dealerships, and
yeah,
you're offering a service to people, kind
yeah,
of not really broadcast and advertised, just
yeah,
probably, I don't know, started small with your friends and family. Now it's kind of grown
yeah,
into a full-time thing for you. So
yeah.
can you share how that works?
Sure. You know what? I had been with that same Toyota dealership like many people several times. Being in the automotive industry isn't for the faint of heart, I always say. And in this case, this dealership was owned by half a dozen people, and so it's a little different culture than one guy who owns 10 dealerships or what have you. So
Mm-hmm.
every group's got their own culture, which is fine. And what had happened? I came to kind of a wrap with them in 2015 thereabouts. And people just kept calling me and saying, hey, would you, I'm looking to buy this. Can you kind of tell me how to do it? And our old boss basically said, hey, you've never had a bad review. In fact, they used to pay me to teach people how to get good reviews. And here's the secret. Tell people you want to give them a 5-star experience and then live up to it. And that's it, right? But you mention it and they'll give you a 5-star review. You just have to ask and deserve it. And so he kept my head shot on the website for a couple of years as outside sales. The existing salespeople didn't love that because, of course, it cut into their business when people would say, hey, we're looking for that guy. And so when I finally left, my phone kept ringing. I had a friend, specifically a friend named Anat, and she had called me. I'd met her actually at the dealership probably 10 years earlier. And she said, hey, I'm looking to buy a Forerunner. Could you, tell me how I could negotiate that? And I said, well, why don't I come with you? And she said, that would be great. Would you do that? I said, no problem. So it came with her. She went to a dealership and basically, had a retail price on her vehicle that she was going to pay. And they gave her a pretty good price on her Tacoma and so on. I said, well, here's what I think. I think we can make a lower offer to purchase. And I think they'll take it. And sure enough, they did. And it saved her some thousands. And that was back in the time when there was lots of inventory. Sidebar, what COVID has taught dealerships is that they don't have to have inventory to make money. Right. If they're
Right.
selling something out of the pipeline, they're making better money. But they had inventory at the time. I helped her buy that Forerunner. And then I also I call it shopping her trade. So even today, when somebody is looking to part with a vehicle, whether they want to trade it or sell it privately or what have you, if they want to sell it privately, I'll give them a template. I'll coach them. I'll help them with their pricing. I'll help them with their wording and that kind of thing. If they want to trade it to a dealership, we'll let the dealership that's selling the new vehicle put in a number on the vehicle, but we're also not committing to them. And so it's just kind of evolved to where I will go and get more than one offer on the vehicle. So we found her some extra money. So basically, helping her out, I helped her save about, and I helped her with some wheels and tires and how to trade her wheels and that kind of thing. But it was certainly 5,000 from the dealership in savings and probably an extra 1,000 with wheels and that kind of thing. And she said, that's spectacular. She says, I want to tell the world. And so can I promote you somewhere? I said, no, don't, thanks, but that's okay. And uh and so I thought, well, maybe I will write something that basically says what it is that I like to do. And that is to, I thought, well, I like to be like a big brother on the schoolyard, which means I'm going to stand behind you and nobody's going to be tough with you because they see this big galoot behind you. And so I kind of work like that with the people I'm helping out. I'm like their big brother in the schoolyard and I run interference gently. Now, in the last half a dozen, 7 years, I've now dealt with 150 dealerships in the province. And what I do is I basically work for the client to save some steps and to remove some anxiety and some stress and some time and so on. So I cut that all out for people. And so for the most part, people have been telling people, and I don't advertise, I don't have a website, but I'm helping certainly north of 100 people, well north of 100 people per year, to be their car finder. person and so on. And
And you're
that
not charging them anything for this service,
I'm
is
not
that right?
charging them anything for that service. Yeah. And so the way that works, people say, how does this possibly work? And I don't explain that until we get on the telephone. It's most important that, I hear the tone in people's voice to help them best. And the dealership we grew up in used to have a referral fee, and a referral fee used to be paid out of what they called the marketing bucket. So that's the same bucket of money that has the coffee and the stir sticks and the creamers and pays for the Wi-Fi for the people that are visiting the dealership. And that dealership paid about $100. They paid not about, they paid exactly $100 for every referral. But I also tracked the numbers and knew that they were only paying out one or two or maybe three referrals per month. And so if they're paying out three referrals every 125 to 140 vehicles they sell, it's kind of what I'll call banked money that just wasn't being paid out. And I thought, well, I can just
Right.
help people and I'll
Grab
have the
grab that
dealership do
money
that.
off the table.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
other thing, this sounds peculiar, but on purpose, I don't take a percentage of, what a dealership has to sell a car because it keeps my agenda pure. And it is nice to be able to say, hey, there's nothing out of pocket. And the dealership's not going to increase the cost of the vehicle because I'm involved. And so it's a great situation for the people I help out. And it also perpetuates my business. So,
And you can say to somebody too, like, hey, like the service I offer is the same if you're buying a $15,000 used hatchback or a
yep,
$150,000 BMW. I give you the same service and probably
yep,
get paid about the same too, right? So you're putting the
yeah.
same effort in.
Yeah, quite often. I did have a gentleman at a BMW dealership I've dealt with in the past. He says, you do a lot of work for this money, and it's more than $100. But the dealership paid a little lighter a long time ago as well. But he said, it doesn't quite make sense to me. I said, well, here's the thing that I haven't told you, and this is my ninth time helping this family,
Mhm.
and I helped them to get rid of initially a Porsche, a Cayenne, and helped him get an extra $6,250 over and above what the Porsche dealership wanted to pay him for it. And I helped him get rid of another Infinity vehicle, and I've helped them get rid of more vehicles than I've helped them to get. But anyway,
Yeah.
so that's the
Well,
thing.
that counts
There's
for something
something
too.
huge value in the fact that your phone just rings and such. So,
Hmm.
so yeah, I really don't like to. I certainly don't have a shingle hanging anywhere explaining what I do because it would just be too busy and so on.
Right.
So yeah,
So
I'm gonna
we
have to
won't share
teach a
your
young guy.
contact information in the show notes here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can put my email address in there, but I don't. I don't. I always tell people text me because I don't get to enough email. I help out
Hmm.
my daughter with her company a little bit, kind of as a sounding board, and so I think I'm subscribed to. I hate to confess, probably 60 or so different industry newsletters and that kind of a thing to be able to have a pulse to be able to help her,
Yeah.
with what she's doing. So,
So stuff gets
uh,
lost in your inbox.
well, yeah, quite often I'm one of those guys that's got 26,000 unanswered or unopened emails in his box, but the ones that are important to me, I see them. And anyway,
I got a question for you. So, you know, people are so grateful for you to help them through this experience. Why does that experience suck so much by buying a car from a dealership?
it's
Why does it
because
take
of
so
the
damn long? Like,
yes. Yeah, and so it doesn't have to take so long, but the dealership certainly wants to, and I'll speak from both sides because I understand both sides. People don't love car shopping. Quite often, they're going to meet up with a salesperson that's not been there very long, and so the salesperson is not going to know a heck of a lot and that kind of a thing, and they have to
I
go
feel
and
like
tell their
that's got
life
worse.
story.
I feel like that's got
Well,
worse since you and I were
yeah.
selling cars.
Well, one of the things I did with the dealership we worked at was one of the times I had been away from them, they connected and said, hey, I need another sales manager. Would you put your name in the hat? And I said, I don't think you need another sales manager. I said, I think you need a training manager who will go through 5 to 10 deals from start to finish with every single new person so that your customers aren't paying for the education of your salesperson. And he said, you can do that? I said, that's what you need. He says, can you come and set that up? And so I did. I went to work with him and, did that for in a couple of years again. And
Hmm.
so I definitely like to show and tell. I definitely like to show people how things work. And, you know, a favorite teacher, Jim Rohn, my favorite teacher of my life for sure. He says the price is easy if the picture's clear. So if you find common ground with somebody and they like you, and I do like to get straight to familiar with people really quite quickly, and then help them to understand. Here's how it all works. Here's how the money works, and that kind of a thing. And then, as Mr. Rohn used to say, we make up in numbers what we lack in skill. And so, we um, I did that. Did. that role as well. But anyway, your question is, why does it take so long? It doesn't have to. So what I've done is I will typically talk to a dealership and say, and I need to kind of get it out all in one or two sentences, and it's a bit of a hot air message because I'm telling them a lot in a heck of a hurry. So I'll talk to a manager that I haven't spoken with in the past and say, "Hi, my name's Randall. I'm a da 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 da. I'm in the dealer. I used to be with a Toyota dealership. I'm a car finder these days. I help about X amount of people per year, and I've done all of the steps. I've got a client. I'd like to send to buy that vehicle in your inventory." And I really just need somebody to do a walk around and a test drive. So if you've got somebody that wants to have a sticker and you'd like to let me know who they are or give me their name, I'll call them. And then I'll tag team with that person. So for you, Mr. Sales Manager, I'll be like an outside sales guy. To my client, I'll be an informant. And to the sales guy, I'll be like a shift partner. So I wear three different hats. And when I go and do that, the sales managers, quite often, it's like a bit of a whirlwind of a conversation, and they say, okay, that sounds good. And they, most of them have some kind of a referral program. So then I basically connect back with my customer, and I've done some shopping for them. If they're looking for something new, I certainly want to find out which dealership is not doing what I would call a market pricing, or it's a nice way to say we're charging over and above what the manufacturers are recommending, and it's their prerogative for sure. They can certainly do that. I also like to deal with dealerships that haven't automatically determined that they're going to put $4,500 worth, $4,500 worth of undercoating and rust proofing and paint protection and all of that kind of thing on a car. So if I can come to somebody and say, "Hey, we've got the car, we can put our own add-ons on that vehicle if you'd like." And then I negotiate on behalf of the client to basically come down to best pricing scenario, and try and kick out some things that are not necessary. I try not to remove a dealer doc or administration fee because I don't know who's getting paid on it. But for the most part, I'm going to come away with a better deal than they would have on their own. And so my client's involvement is meeting me, hearing my big long story in 5 or 10 minutes, finding out what they're looking for. And then, when I go to work for them, I helped a lady this week who's up in Edmonton, and she's one, two, three, four, five, six. She's the seventh generation referral. So somebody
Yeah.
told somebody, I have them all mapped out, by the way. And she said, I stopped at a Toyota store, and they told me it'd only take me 2 months to get one of these vehicles. And I knew it would take longer because I'm just around it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, here's how I can benefit you after we met. And I'd already helped somebody that was just in love with the whole process. So the people I help are ultra enthusiastic, probably because they don't have to pay me anything. And I tell them most everything about the whole deal. I'm deciphering what the dealer is saying. Anyway, for this lady, I basically talked to 6 different dealerships so that she didn't have to. I found out which dealerships were charging market price, which is this inflated price. I found out which dealerships were selling at MSRP. And I found out which dealerships had this, and this fee, and which dealership had only this fee. And so I was able to come back, and here's this, the 6 or 7 dealerships I spoke with. I did speak to some in Calgary and Lloydminster as well, just to basically like a GPS narrow down in on the refined data. Here's the poop.
Mm-hmm.
Here's who's got access to that vehicle. And I said it was probably a salesperson that told you that vehicle was going to be about 2 months away, right? This lady said, yes, it was. I said, well, I've spoken to his boss. It's going to be somewhere between, 8 and 16 months. And so if you can hold out, that's going to be a great vehicle for you. So anyway, the punchline is we got a deposit in on her vehicle, and she's in the queue waiting for it. She's not overpaying, not paying the extra 4,500, not paying for the extra accessories. And then lastly, I tell the sales managers as well, by the way, I'll get that person to the point of the deposit, but I'm also going to give them a 20-point business office menu that you and I would be familiar with from over the years. And it's just to basically explain to those people, things that the dealership is going to present to them afterwards as well.
All
I
the
do like to
extras.
inject some humor. I say the business office people, they're perhaps some of the nicest people in the dealership, but they are like the Navy SEALs of cash extraction. They're very good at their
Yeah.
jobs and so on. So,
They'll turn you upside down and
yeah.
shake out your pockets. So anything you got left, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I teach them a little bit. I inoculate them, prepare them for that. And I say to the sales manager, I'm not going to poop on any of those products. I'm just going to inform my client so that when my client sits there, I've got a promise from my buyer that they're not going to say to the business office, no, I don't want to hear about any of this stuff. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
hear it out. And those things that are intriguing to them, they're going to email it to them before they take delivery. And then I'm going to see the email. I'm going to see what they're presenting anyway. So I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm running interference between the whole
It's crazy
scenario.
to
So
me how fast things changed, like with COVID and with the supply chain disruptions. How fast it went from this race to the bottom, where if you called a couple dealerships, you could get a car for dead ass cost plus
yes,
$500.
yeah,
Within a year, if you could get the car for sticker price, you were getting a good
yeah,
deal. Like I
yes,
bought a 2022 Highlander,
yeah,
platinum loaded, everything, and they acted like when I went there to pick it up, and I said, look, I don't mind, I'll pay your full price, I'll pay your dock fee, I'll even put 3M film on it if you don't overcharge me on that. But
yeah,
I'm not paying any other extra shit. I don't want any extra warranty. Don't even ask me. And don't even put a goddamn block heater in the thing because I'm never going to use it. And
yeah,
they acted like they were doing me such a favor selling me this thing.
yes,
When I went to
yeah.
pick it up, I won't say the sales manager's name, Chinese guy, PC or his initials. Oh, you very lucky. You got good deal. This very hard to get. Like, fuck you, I'm lucky. This thing was 60 grand. I paid you full price. I know how
Yeah,
much you made on it. I'm lucky.
yes,
That
yes,
must have really changed the dynamic for what you do, because it's like, okay, I'm going to get you a good deal. If you don't overpay above sticker price, that's considered a good deal now. You had to like kind of
yeah,
recalibrate what a good deal
yeah.
meant.
I'm usually saying to the dealer, listen, I know you're getting full gross on this vehicle. I know it's about this amount and so on. And I'm not going to beat the tar out of you, but, there's got to be some benefit in my client, using me. And of course, I need to help them have a better scenario than they might have on their own. And so with that, and I've learned the words basically to be able to say to a dealership and ask if they can live with this particular, offer. I certainly expect a counter sometimes and so on, but the dealers would know me well enough to know that I work for the buyers and so on. And so there are some dealers that would look at what I do and think, what a great opportunity to have this guy bringing us some business. And there are other dealerships that would think, we don't need you. That's certainly,
Right.
I get all of it. And that's
It's
perfectly
cyclical,
okay.
right? They don't
Yeah.
need you today, but 2 years from now, it could be a different
Yeah.
economy. It could be they could have hundreds of cars getting suntans on their lot, and they
Yeah.
might be thinking, man, for $500 or something, would be nice if I could buy a deal, if I hadn't
Yeah.
burnt that Randall guy or whatever, right? Like, yeah,
Here's a wacky one.
yeah.
The dealership that I worked with from '03 till 2015, new GSM or GM, new GM went in there. And I said, I connected by email, said, I'd sure like to keep my license here because I have to be licensed to do what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I certainly would love to keep servicing there. Love to, be, give you a first kick at the cat per se on every, Toyota I ever do. And, and, if I can keep my license here, I'd like to do that. And he said, well, I'll talk to all the top salespeople. And of course, they didn't want me there, right? Because I was their
They
competition.
saw you as a
And I
threat.
still
Yeah.
have the email, and there was about 9 people CC'd on it. Some people you'd know, and I didn't reply to it. But he said, "We've had a discussion, and if you pay us $3,000, we'll let you keep cash up front. Cash up front. We will let you keep your license here, and then we will pay you X, which was about I'm going to say 55% of the average of every other dealership in the province." So I'm like,
No thanks.
just didn't answer, but I do have the receipt, as they say. And
Unreal.
so anyway,
Shaking you down.
interesting guy. Yeah,
So what would you say? A comment and then a question. But my comment is, like, even in this environment, trying to get a new Toyota where you got to wait potentially 16 months for it. But even even if you don't save that client a dollar on that car, probably for most of those people, they see a lot of value in just in the certainty and the safety of it, knowing that,
yeah,
like, okay, like I didn't get overcharged. This guy's looking out for me, right?
yes, yeah. And I
What?
tell people,
Go
I'm
ahead.
never going to show you anything I can't tell you. Or I'm never going to tell you a single thing ever that I can't show you in black and white. So I'm about the data. I'm about the data, and I'll get the data from the source. But so people like that and they trust that because I will tell them, but then I will show them. And I certainly learned that again years ago. If I tell somebody something, maybe they believe you, maybe they don't. If I tell them and show them, it's like three people, right, presenting the same story.
It's
So
helpful in any sales job, I
yeah,
think. Like, hey,
yeah,
don't take my word for it. Here's the
yes,
actual data. Even casual conversations I have with people about the value of their house. It's like, I think
yeah,
it's worth this much, but don't take my word for it. Here's the last 10 houses that sold on your
yeah,
street, right? Like, come
yes,
prepared with it, with the
yeah.
with the numbers to back
And
it
they'll
up.
believe the number on the page before they'll believe you. And that's human nature. So I knew that
Yeah.
really early on when I first got into sales when I was about 28. I had what I would say a wonderful teacher who was really street smart. He was a PK, or a preacher's kid, so it meant he was really street smart, and he'd had lots of people in his house growing up and that kind of a thing. And I was clueless, but I knew how to put people in front of him. And so I watched, listened, learned, had a good mentor, wrote down what he said. I recorded what he said. I internalized it, memorized it, and then I randalized it, I say. So I basically learned from good people. I filter out the BS and the stuff that makes, you know, dealerships look bad. And there's a lot of great looking dealerships. There's some that aren't. There's a lot of great plumbers and some that aren't. A lot of great
Hmm.
lawyers and some that aren't. So I just filter out and use the good ones, which is makes the experience where people get excited about telling. My goal is, if somebody's at a party and somebody whispers over in the corner, I'm thinking about getting a new car. I know that many of the people I work with will do this. They'll plow through the crowd and they'll say, I
You
got
got to
the
call my
guy.
guy.
I got the
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
That's what I put. I put that as a tagline on my website. I said, "I'm your guy," because I
Yeah.
feel the same way. It's like, I want my clients to have such a great experience that
Yeah.
they're like a fan, right? Like, and
Yeah.
exactly that scenario you described. I've daydreamed about that too. Like, no, 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 no. I don't care who you're using. You got to talk to my guy. Trust me. Like, it was
Yeah.
such a great. That's you only get that by giving people a great experience.
Yes, you bet. I want to say something about that as well, because I've just been like, I really didn't study, people in communications and selling, or, you know, doing selling sorts of business until I was about 28 years of age. But then, I had a good teacher come down my path, and I was truly like an empty vessel, I would say. But I learned a lot, a lot, a lot in a really short period of time. And it's helped me in many different areas. It helped me in single parenting my herd of kids for, 19 years on my own. And the point I want to come to is that when you talked about people knowing you're the guy, I heard a phrase and from a famous old name, Zig Ziglar, and he said, "Would you rather have clients and customers that are satisfied or loyal?" And I've had harsh discussions with people who said, "Well, I want a satisfied customer." So he puts it another way. He says, "How about if you go away on a business trip? While you're gone, would you have liked your wife to have been satisfied or loyal?" And so there's a big difference in just the difference between seeking out and pursuit and announcing, out loud and to your team, I'm going to seek out loyal customers. They'll go to war for you. They'll go to fight for you, and they'll go to bat for you. It's wonderful, of course. And I know what it's like too, because I brag up lots of different people and I put lots of great people together with great people. It is such a joy because I know that guy is a prince and that person is awesome, and I'm going to put them together. And
Yeah.
so,
And your
um,
word carries a lot of weight because they know that you're someone that they can trust. So you say, like, your endorsement has more weight when you've had that experience with them,
yes,
that you're a trustworthy guy. And that's what it comes down to, right? Here's someone you can trust, right? In
yeah,
fact, you gave me a great referral a couple years ago, young couple buying their first house, and
mhm,
it went really well. And that just takes the edge off, right? Because
yeah,
you know, Randall,
Emily and Josh, yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Randall said you're great. If Randall says you're good, that's all I need to know. So
yeah.
that's really valuable. I wanted to ask you, just hanging on the car dealership thing, because I know a lot of people are going to have a lot to say about this, but like, um, what would you say is the number one mistake people make buying a car from a dealership?
I'm not shopping. There are a couple of dealerships. I won't mention them over the air here right now, but if I want their product for one of my clients, I go to another city. A couple of them here. I love their used car department. I love the team. I love the management. But somewhere up above, it's been mandated that thou shalt charge an extra 4,500 over MSRP, and I'm not putting my client into that. Not doing it. Not going to apologize to them and say, "Hey, you're paying 4,500 more because it's the dealership that's close to you." So I say that those businesses just flat out depend on people not becoming informed, not educating themselves, and they'll go and pay an extra 4 or 5 grand,
Right.
and so on. And it's just because we're so inundated by this, that, and the other electronic thing, and all the noise in the world and that kind of thing. I need a car. I'm just going to put my head down low, go in and buy one, right? But with just a tiny bit of research, or if I can run interference and say, well, if you are, go to that one there because they're not charging 4,500 over, and so on. Um,
Right. And I think a
so
lot of people don't realize when they go to when they go to a car dealership, that is a franchise of the manufacturer. You know, if you go to a Ford store, that is an
Hmm.
independent franchise
Yeah.
of the Ford Motor Company. And the thing is, there's so much like we know that a Tim Hortons is a franchise.
Yeah.
We know that Wendy's is a franchise. We know that Subway is a franchise, and we know that if we go into a Subway in Calgary or in Edmonton or in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and we order the same sandwich, it's going to be pretty consistent because
Yes.
there is a brand standard from the franchisor to the franchisee, no matter which guy owns that little restaurant. But car dealerships are weird like that because there's 1,000 miles apart between the experience you're going to get at this group's Ford dealership versus this group's Ford dealership versus this group's
Yes.
Ford dealership. And
Yeah.
the dealers, sorry, the manufacturers, they fight that. It's a constant battle with their franchisees to
Yeah.
get a more consistent brand experience. But it's just such a big, expensive, complicated business to run. And this is how they grew. This is how they expanded their
Yeah.
footprint by offering out franchise. And they gave away franchises, you know, in the 19th century to expand. And they gave anyone that had a garage,
Yeah.
you know, a shingle for to be.
Yeah.
And now you have and now you have dealers that are third, sometimes fourth generation that got it from their dad, right?
Yes.
But going back to your point, yeah, there might be two, call it Ford dealerships in your town, and you're going to get a completely different experience from one to the
Yes.
other just by
Yeah.
driving, you know, 5 or 6 miles. And
Yeah.
like you said, you might pay $5,000 more for the same goddamn car, right? So
Yes.
that's a good one. If anyone's listening, shop it around.
Yes, and so I can kind of shortcut that scenario for the most part because I, talk to all of them and that kind of thing. And I really can't even blame the guys that overcharge. It's like a used school desk that you want to put into Kijiji or whatever. It's worth what it's worth. To somebody, it's worth $200. To other people, get that thing out of here. I just want it gone. And so different dealerships will have a philosophy, I believe, that says, "Hey, we don't mind charging an extra, 4 or 5 grand over and above MSRP, because it won't matter anyway. The person will take the fewer customers and more profit
Mm-hmm.
than the other way around. The company that's
Yeah.
working twice as hard, twice as fast, and so on. They're burnt out, but they're making less money. So they both
And
work. Both
you know,
models work.
to play devil's advocate too, and this isn't to give a free pass to the dealerships that do this, but you know, if you're a Toyota dealer, you know, in 2017, 2018, you could have no problem getting the inventory that you needed. Well, for the most part, Toyota's always been tight with inventory. Maybe not a good example. Let's say Ford. If it's 2018, 2019, you're a Ford dealer. You can get all the F-150s, F-350s, and Mustangs and Broncos and everything that you want. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you know, COVID hits, supply chain gets all fucked up. They can't get enough cars, and you're a say you're you know Randall's Ford dealership, and you're used to selling 300 cars a month, and now the manufacturer can only supply you 60 cars a month. You
Hmm.
still got all this staff to pay. Well, I guess, you know, you can understand why they
Yeah.
need to make more per copy. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's like two opposite ends of the spectrum. It seems they're either flooded with inventory and they're discounting it as aggressively as they can to
Yeah.
get rid of it, or
Yeah.
they've got nothing and they're going to soak every person for every penny they
Yeah.
can get out of them, right? But then again, they bring in a guy like you. At least, you know, maybe they still have to pay full sticker, but at least they can feel confident knowing. But I was saying, you know, at least if they bring in a guy like you, they can walk away knowing, look, okay, at least I know I didn't overpay. Maybe they had to pay sticker. Maybe you couldn't save them 1 penny off the,
Yeah.
but they didn't get soaked for an extra 4 or 5 grand on top of that, or lied to, or you know,
Yeah.
another to me, I tell people the biggest mistake they make, and your answer is probably better than mine because I didn't go there, but the other mistake people make is getting roped into a payment, right? Because that
Yes.
person that's going to overpay for the car, someone sat
Yeah.
down with them and walked them through a worksheet and
Yeah.
got them the payment that they could afford. And they think, oh, you know what,
Yeah.
$366 every 2 weeks, I can
Yes.
manage that. They don't like that's the advice I always have is like, you need to know how much you're paying. You should be
Yes.
negotiating the all in price because the payment doesn't mean anything because
Yeah.
I can give you whatever payment you want and tack it onto
Yeah.
the end or stretch the term out or
Yeah.
whatever, right? So, anyways,
Well, I have to, in the same way I was talking about marbles in a bowl, I need to see all the moving pieces. When I do get a quote sheet back from a dealership, if it's in a, four square scenario, which basically says, here's the payment. here's the trade value, here's the down payment, and that kind of thing. And what's missing off there, of course, is the sometimes the price of the vehicle and always
Yeah.
the interest rate and that kind of a thing. And so, sometimes they'll show you a discount, which wasn't really a discount. It was just an inflated price to start with. So
Hmm.
I will take it apart, line by line, frame by frame. And sometimes I have to ask a dealership, to send me that copy or that page that shows me the things you don't want to show me. And,
Hmm.
I do that very kindly, very nicely. And I'll ask, hey, do you use 180? What do you use for your system? And then I'll take the cost of a vehicle. I'll have my own Google Sheets calculator, and I'll build it in reverse. And so I've had scenarios where somebody said, "Hey, and I got a great rate, and it's 5.9%." And this is an old story I'm thinking of. And I said, "It's actually 7.9%." No, they said it's 5.9. And I said, "Well, here I'm looking at the calculator. I'm screenshot. I'm going to send it to you. Mine says 7.9. Theirs says 5.9." And so the difference is they're basically banking. And again, there's some fantastic plumbers and some not so fantastic plumbers and
Hmm.
lawyers and car industry people. And even if they, make a better deal for their dealership, there are a lot of people that just, they don't care. They don't mind. But the people that do care and do mind, and, I would sprint 50 yards if I saw a $5 bill flying across the schoolyard, because single parenting does that to a guy. So I want to make sure that I'm just getting the best possible scenario. So I don't tell people we're going to get you the cheapest vehicle that ever existed, in the history of the world, but we're going to save you a bunch of time. So my people show up for a walk around and a test drive, hand back the keys, and be on their way. So it's quite often where I can set up 2 or 3 back-to-back test drives with a family on a Saturday, and I will map it out. I'll say, here's the first dealership. Here's the person you're going to talk to. He'll be there ready for you. The car will be backed up. And once you get there, you can just take your test drive, hand the keys back, be on your way. And it's 11 minutes to the next store. I'm going to give you 13 minutes because of traffic, but I'm going to line up your next drive for you. So I can, what would normally take somebody 3 weeks, I can do it on a Saturday and get 3 test drives done. And they'll come away and say, we were thinking it was going to be this brand, but we both love this brand more. So
And
anyway,
I remember when
I'm,
I started, like 2003, on a Saturday, it was so busy, and people still shop that way. They'd go around town and they'd drive 6 or 7 different cars they wanted, and then come back to the one they liked and try to make a deal on it. But
yeah,
um, part of that lousy dealership experience is like that when they won't let you leave, and they make everything difficult. Like, just to, hey, I just want to test drive a car. Well,
yes,
we got to sit you down and we have to bring you into our process first,
yes,
right? I just
yeah,
just let me drive the car. Well, I need some information. Like, that's super frustrating. Hey, you had mentioned, you said you were 28 when you first got into
yes.
sales. What was that
Yeah.
job?
It was actually, I was living on an acreage at the time. This friend of mine that was the preacher's kid who became a mentor, he had called my wife at the time and tried to get me to the phone, and I was on the lawn tractor. And he wouldn't get off the phone. And he called back 2 minutes later after my wife had kicked him off the phone. And I was pretty perturbed. I came in and answered the phone and said, "What's going on?" He said something about water filters. I said, "What's it about?" "Something about water filters." And meet me at the Blackfoot Inn. And I'm 27 minutes out. I'm like, I don't want to go back into town. I didn't knock off the grass clippings. I went into the Blackfoot Inn. I sat and watched a lousy seminar. It was lousy. And I could tell you the names of the people that did the presentation because I'm a note taker, and it was water filtration. And so I thought, okay, well, I was working with a family plumbing and heating company at the time, so I thought, oh, everybody drinks water, so maybe there's something here and so on. But anyway, I saw this really poor presentation. But at the end of the presentation, I saw a video clip with some people in the States that were making ridiculous dough, and I didn't know how they're doing it. I knew that they were doing it, right? This is like you can tell if somebody's being straight with you if they're feeding you a line. I knew that they were doing it. I just didn't know how. So I came to another seminar. I came to another seminar, and then and I finally decided with my buddy to pool some money together. I cashed in my $1,100 RSP at the time. I bought, we between us we bought 28 water filters, so I had half a dozen. He had the rest. And but what had happened was that was again I talked to a couple of friends about this water filtration, and I had an old roommate of mine. She said, "That's direct sales." I said, "What's direct sales?" She said, "What you're doing, that's direct sales." I said, "I didn't know. I hadn't heard the term." But anyway, I found myself in a direct sales company, but I also found myself being trained and coached and taught by people that were $1 million earners in a previous direct sales company. So even though I was involved with water filtration, the people that were the teachers or trainers for us, they were $1 million earners in Herbalife. And so I was
Oh
not a
yeah.
vitamin taker. I didn't take vitamins, and so that wasn't what it was about, but it was about learning a blueprint on how to go and, make, a good business, and then just transplanting it onto another scenario. So, but yeah, so I came in there clueless. I got really great at putting my contacts in front of my, the people that you could present it properly. I
So
was
did
told to
did you
put
have
the,
to own the inventory? You said you had to buy
yes.
a bunch of these
Yeah.
things. So you actually had, so like once you've bought it off and they've already made their money, and then what? What?
Well, you buy it at wholesale.
Right,
And
right,
then,
right.
yeah, and then you can also set up other reps, which I did. So, anyway, within 6 months, I was a little afraid of my shadow, and I'd never spoken in front of people, excuse me, up until that point in time. And then I was pressed to go up and explain these 5 water filters one night. And I sincerely went blank for 20 seconds, which is a long time to go blank. And there was
Yeah.
120 people in that group because there was some big guy from California explaining things. Even though I went blank, some people encouraged me, said, "Hey, everybody has their first time, and you did great. You'll do better next time." From that point forward, I ended up then learning the presentation and then becoming a trainer because I had modeled the simplest possible way to do this. And so that's what I was doing. I was selling water treatment equipment, but I was also networking and building a team. I call an invited sales force. Real estate would be an invited sales force because most anybody can join. Insurance, I would call that an invited sales force. The direct sales industry was an invited sales force. And so I joined there. But again, I had the confidence from spending time with people that had really set it up and pulled it off and were very accomplished. And I didn't understand how people would make, $100,000 a year doing this, or 200,000 or 300,000, but I learned from the people that did, and so I had that kind of an experience. So I went from this clueless worm to being able to be a bit of a butterfly and grow into that industry. And so anyway, I eventually ended up, certainly I saw 6 figures, which doubled the second year, and the second year doubled the third year, and that kind of thing. And it was ridiculous earning, but I followed the blueprint and so on. And so overall, a really great experience. But the side people that I learned from was the best part of that. That's what gave me the confidence and the ability to be able to speak to people and that kind of a thing through that industry.
You'd said the side people that you learned from.
Yeah, so I watch, listen, learn, record. I helped a lot of people become salespeople in that industry. I carried an inventory of cassette recorders in the trunk of my car. What did I have to drive when I first joined there? Anyway, I went from having a lump of a car to having a nice Cadillac and having a nice motorhome and, nice
That's
things.
a good
Yeah.
sales story. Like it was fun for me to see that, because I went through that too. Like to start making some money and then really improve
Yes.
your lot in life and
Yeah.
buy a house and own a car and all that.
Yeah.
And then to see people that you're training, improve their position in life a little bit too is
Yeah.
it can be rewarding, right?
And what the most wonderful part of that was that in traditional business, car salespeople, they don't even want to be nice to you unless they know you're going to make it. So I would teach new people and say,
They don't even
listen,
want to remember your name.
they don't want
Yeah.
to, if you're here in 3 months, they will become your friends, but they
Mm,
don't want to invest their heart in you if you're not going to be here in 3 months, because it's a bit of a meat grinder. It's tough on people to be in the car sales industry,
yeah.
and they don't make a lot initially.
And
But
I can empathize with that because as cynical as that is, as a sales manager, I can't tell you how many guys mostly and ladies too that I hired that I was optimistic about. I thought, oh, they're gonna make it, and put a lot of energy into that person
yeah,
and coach them and train them and mentor them, and some people just never get it. And then
yes.
you kind of take the wind out of you, and then I can understand why people reach that, like, hey, you got 3 months to sink or swim here, bud.
Yes. Yeah. The wonderful thing about where I came from into automotive market was that, in that industry, it was a do more, earn more. It was also the better we do, the better we all do. It's not that way in the car industry. It's a me
Right.
versus you and that kind of a thing. So that was a very generous world that I came from, where, the team grows and everybody benefits and so on. So And the more you basically impart every single stitch of information, even the thoughts and the quirks and the phrases and the presentation of how you would do something, the better you can help people to become independent of you by giving them every bit of your advice, every bit of your coaching and training, the better you did. And that's not how it works in the car industry. People
No.
want to be quite close, right? They want to keep their cards close to their chest and so
Mm,
on. So coming from that industry, I still did that when I, was working as a trainee manager. I said to people, I'm going to work as hard as you do on your business. I might even work harder than you do, but I will do this with you, not for you. And I quit when you quit. And that
right.
was a good blueprint because, the people that punched through, did well, and they're still my friends today and that kind of a thing. And the other people that didn't, that's okay. This wasn't for them. And, you still, anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
I
great
remember
experience.
I remember the financial crash 2008, and
Yes.
I was a sales manager at the time, and the resumes I would get, stacks of them,
Hmm.
engineers, geologists, all these people who used to make a lot of money that are now
Yeah.
unemployed,
Yes.
professionals, right? And I mean, I hate to admit it, but a lot of those resumes just went straight in the trash because these are guys
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'll just go sell cars. Well, and I tried a few of them, but it's like you have no idea what
Yes.
you're getting into, what the
Yeah.
environment you're getting into, and what's going to be expected of you,
Yeah.
and they can't wrap their head around only eating what they kill, right?
Yes.
Um, whereas
Yeah.
some of us are just built that way, and that's
Yeah.
the way we've always
Yes.
paid our bills.
I saw some resumes for sure, and they said, I've always wanted to sell cars. I always wanted to give that a go, and they just lost their $200,000 a year job in the oil patch.
Yeah,
And I would hear them out, as they say, there's something more important than a good first impression. That's a good last impression. So I would give them the time of day, but then I would also help them to understand that if I am hiring a personality that's going to be here for 6 months, and when the industry changes and your 200,000 job comes available again in 6 months or 8 months, which it will, then I'm going
yeah,
to lose you. And so I don't mind investing in a friend. I don't mind investing in somebody to help them to maybe have a better scenario than what they've got. But I also have to perhaps give that to somebody who looks at it as a career, not just something as, yeah, I've always wanted to sell cars. Always wanted to give that a go.
yeah.
Right.
I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I heard that, and
Yeah.
they last 2 to 3 weeks. They're like that,
Yes. Yeah.
and after a while, it's like, you're not gonna make it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
think?
that's
I
the
was gonna.
litmus test is when they're there, right? And you
Yeah,
just don't always know,
yeah,
you
and
know?
and you have best laid plans for people, and sometimes you convince yourself like, oh, I think I got a superstar here, and
Yes.
they just they don't have it. Do you think there's like DNA for that? Like, do you think some people
Yeah.
are born with it?
Yes, I think that what happens is, in the direct sales world, we learn to hope for, look for somebody that's willing to work and somebody that's coachable and that's somebody that has a burning desire. And I found that after I was in that industry for a long time, I had people that were lawyers that were in that business because, oh, I've got some friends, who should be doing this and so on. And so, but yeah, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not selling any product, that kind of thing. And I learned to say to them, no problem. Don't sell anything. But these people that you want to present to, you come and watch and listen and learn, and I'll explain it to them and don't say anything. And so after I basically go through the paces for somebody that wasn't a lawyer, he'd say, "Oh, now I see why I need to do that." So I would train past him is my point. So the point about your question on whether that's built in the DNA, that comes with time. Time will either promote you or time will expose you as somebody that's going to be great at this business or somebody that's just going to kind of come and be a time waster. But I used to say it would be great if God would put an orange fluorescent pylon on everybody's head who's going to come your way and be a superstar with you so you could just go through the crowd. And I would pick you if I knew. I'd say, Taylor, come with me. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I think we could do together. What do you think? Not for you. Thanks very much. Get out of my way. And then I'd go to the next person and the next person and the next person and the next person, looking for people to, grow their lives in some fashion.
Sometimes it does
And there
feel
was
like
no
there's a
pylon.
fluorescent orange pylon on my head, but
Yeah, well, I know there's always been an orange fluorescent, but when you were 18 years old and wanted to go into management, I thought, oh, there's a pylon on that guy's head, and
yeah,
it's showing. Sometimes you have to dig
yeah,
and give time. I used to. I'm a checklistaholic, and I would give people a list of things that, if you do all of these things and you sprinkle in some attitude and some drive, this is the recipe card, and here's some results that you can have. Time will tell if they're going to flourish or they're not. And so you could have somebody that wore the cross pens and had the wingtip shoes and a $1,500 Hugo Boss suit come to your business and do nothing. And
Yeah.
and somebody else that works as a caretaker who's got good work ethic, and somebody that's got the drive, and somebody that's ambitious and got all kinds of reasons to
Shows
do
up.
well, and that person goes to the moon, and
Hmm.
you can't stop them. So I am a slow learner, and I always used to liken it to uh, I guess a push car. The cars we had as a kid that had a magneto in it or a flywheel, and you push it three, four, five, six, seven,
Right.
and let it go. Right? That was me. They'd tell me something. I'd say, "But yeah, but why?" So you don't need to
Yeah.
know why, just do it. No, 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 but why? But why? And so I was slow to learn, but once I got traction, I just carried on with a blueprint that worked. And that's sometimes people will come. It's really not. It's in the hidden DNA. It's not up front until time goes by, and that person promotes themselves, right? Or they get
Right.
exposed for somebody that looked like they were going to do well, but the numbers weren't there, or they didn't show
Yeah,
up, or
and
whatever.
then you got to make a decision. It's like, oh, no, maybe you're not going to make it. Maybe this isn't.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're doing them a favor. Like, yeah, maybe this isn't a good fit for you. And
Yeah.
that's a guy taught me once that very successful business guy owns a big construction company in the States. And he says, when I fire people, I truly believe that I'm letting them go. Like, this is not a good place for you. I'm letting you go. And then
Right.
sometimes that's what they need. Hey, you've got a couple of grown kids
Yes.
that are very enterprising and successful and pretty damn good salespeople in their own right. So
Hmm.
that kind of, going back to, is there a gene for it? Are you like a sales family? Like, do you think your kids watch you, like, kind of take on your own stuff like that, and maybe inherit that kind of attitude or that mindset?
I'm going to say this very slowly, and don't peel out any sound bites. I was abused as a child because my mother made me play the accordion. So that's pure girl repellent. So I abused my children by helping them to hear some things that they didn't want to hear from some of the great educators that I came across. And as I mentioned earlier, my dad was a fantastic human being when he was around, and he was my certainly my best friend. We
Was
had a
he a
great
sales guy?
relationship. You know what's so funny is that when I left his company, he was so angry. And this is a guy that would never get angry. And he said, "Come on, it's going to be new jobs, new business, new people, enterprise every day in this, mechanical contracting or plumbing and heating world." And I came home one day after getting hurt on a job, and I drove my truck on his lawn. I came and dropped the keys off on his kitchen table. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go and over there. I'm going to go and sell. And he was so angry. I say, remove my refrigerator privileges for a month and so on. But a year later, he gave the company to my brother, and he came to work with me.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that was a bliss. It was a really wonderful experience. So he was just a good old boy that loved to talk to people about this, that, and the other thing. And people just, bought from him because they liked him. So, but
That's a
my,
that's a theme that keeps coming up. Everybody I talk to
yeah,
on here,
yeah.
people buy from who they like, right?
So the best teacher in my life for sure was Jim Rohn, and I had a friend say to me after he realized I wasn't going to go away. Again, a teacher. He said, "I've got something for you." He said, "I want you to go and you should go and listen to these audios." I said, "Oh, okay, I will." He says, "No, no, no." He says, "You need to understand these are really important to me." I said, "Okay, I'll listen." He says, "No, no, no." He's waiting for my body language to be different, and he's saying these are really important because when I move house, I put these under my arm. The movers come and they box everything up, take it to the new house. I walk in and I put these audios on my special place on the shelf where they belong. And so nobody ever touches them, but I'm going to loan them through to you. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." And one more time, he said, "Listen," kind of shaking me by the thing. "If your car slides in the ditch on your way home to the country, and your little Reliant K car, it rolled over and starts on fire," he said, "you get in and get my tapes." And I'm like, "Oh, this is." He had the ability to basically take something that saw was this important, if that's the size of a cup or a beaker, and make it seem this important, but it was also truthful. So again, I was empty, and I just learned a lot of really wonderful information from Jim Rohn. My poor kids have
That's what
heard.
was on the tapes.
Yeah. My kids
Right.
have heard his name for most days. So when my daughter, even when she was very young, I felt ill-equipped to teach, some things because I, was kind of a bit of a loner as a kid, hung out with my dad a lot and was involved with like mechanical things. But I would hear something that spoke to me about a specific one of my kids, and I would be driving my daughter off to ballet and say, "Hey, honey, I heard something today," and it just made me think that this is for you. And I really can't say it as well as this guy. It's a minute and 30 seconds long. Do you think I could play it for you on the way over to dance? And sometimes she'd say yes, and sometimes she'd say no. But what would happen is something brilliant was, presented there, and then we got to talk about it, and so on. And so,
And if she's listening to this right now, she's probably going, "Is my dad talking about fucking Jim Rohn again?"
oh no, she has a great company. She's in the she's in the energy industry. She was worked with an engineering company, but she basically creates strategic partnerships between energy companies and energy companies, and she basically brings them emission reductions, innovations, and technology. So she's just figured out a great niche and so on. And she was paying her people to listen to Tim Rohn.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah, it took her some time, and
Yeah.
I still remember the day she sent me a phrase out of these Jim Rohn tapes, and the phrase was, and it was really a funny story that he told, says, "Don't take your ducks to Eagle School." So my daughter, who had wanted to listen to these audios, I paid my other kids money to read good books that I knew were good, and other audio programs. I paid them because
Mm.
then they'd get the traction, and I'd only pay them after they'd give me explain to me in real basic form what they learned on this, tape one, two, three, four, and five. Tell me five different things you learned from this, and then I'd pay them, and then I'd set that up again, and it gave them, good information. But anyway, the punchline is it took me to get her to go through that set of tapes. I remember it was like, I've arrived. My kid finally went through this on her own without me saying, "Hey, did you get through those yet?" And then I recited about the next two paragraphs that came after that specific phrase. And she said, "You've got to memorize." And I said, "Well, I've got it internalized. I've got, And so again, when you're empty and have room to grow, which I certainly did. That was a good thing for me. Not just Jim Rohn, but he's certainly been my best teacher. And he helped me through single parenting as well, because, I had to learn how to be a mom and a dad, truly. I knew that instantly, and I panicked, and I thought, I need to learn a bunch of maternal things. And so again, I'm happy to be a student per se, to learn from whoever can provide me some things that I can pass on through my kids, because they're not
Yeah,
getting any money. They're just getting wisdom.
this is a theme that keeps coming up. Like everything that you've learned in sales, every step of the way, you know, you seem to pivot and shift to training people about that. And even what you're doing now, you're kind of training and educating your clients on
Yes.
here's how to get that
Yeah.
fair deal at the dealership, right?
Yeah. If I
So
can help
that's
somebody, they're getting a car for the kid. I said, "What's your kid's name?" "It's Bill." "Let's get Bill on the phone with us. Let's talk him through this." And then it's funny. My other son, Jay, he used to do this, which was spectacular. But then I talked to the son and find out what he likes and help him to understand it. And I'll basically dial it down for somebody that's 16 years old. And then I'll help him understand, reliability ratings. I'll help him to understand maintenance. I'll make sure he understands that, here's how it all comes together. And I'll tag team with the son and the dad, or the son and the mom, or what have you, if I can, if they'll kind of open that up. And so even if I'm not around the next time they go to get a car, I definitely have a like that training component to my personality, because I have something here I want to impart it. And if you, well, are we going too long? I got
oh
one.
well, you know what? This would be the longest one I've done yet. We're a minute 12 as we stand now, but it felt like it went by pretty quick.
Joe Rogan, he was been texting me. I said, "Joe," I texted him when you were talking. I said, "I can't. I'm on with Taylor. Joe, wait your turn."
Yeah,
Anyway,
you'll get your chance, Joe.
he's the man.
Well,
So what's duplication is the king. I'll say this, and then I'll come up for air. My son Dan, he's an addictions counselor, and he has a team of people that work with him, and his team love him, and I know so because some of them are my clients. that I
Oh
introduced
yeah.
him to, and then they ended up on the same team, which is spectacular. But he certainly is the quietest one about hearing anything about Jim Rohn. He knows the guy's name for sure.
Yeah.
And then he was saying that his wife had gone to work, and she's really got a great job in a marketing organization. She's an operator. She's like right up there. She came home and she was giving him the gears a little bit because her staff were using Randallisms on her. So I taught my son something, and I'm just the conduit. I'm the conduit. I have some good information. I'll filter out this, but if I can help somebody, through one step. Anyway, so some of these things which he's always said, yeah, Dad, I'll listen to your stuff when you're dead. He would still take forward, and he'd still kind of use it, and certainly in his own life. And I'm grateful for that. So because
Well, I
it's
tell you, I use Alt Tab all the time.
yeah, yeah, there you have it. Man, just if you taught that to your kids, that's all I want to know. If you're a
Yeah.
good dad, teach your kids Alt Tab.
How to get something off your screen in a hurry. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Anyway, maybe
Well, you know what?
maybe they were watching something good or listening to something good on that other screen when they should
Maybe
have
they were
been.
watching Jim
Yeah,
Rohn videos on YouTube. I don't
you
know.
never know, dude. That'll be the best $100. I kid you not. It'll be the best $100 you
Well,
ever.
you got me
Uh,
curious.
I I
Who
have
was the guy that gave you the tapes that insisted
Phil
that?
Jacobson is that guy's name. Phil
Okay.
Jacobson. Yeah, that's the PK. And I did meet Jim Rohn in person, actually, more than
Oh,
a couple
cool.
times. I had him in my car. He spoke to 7 million people when he was alive. Tony Robbins cut his teeth, got his start working for Jim Rohn. So he's a really, most people in the self improvement or self education business would call him the granddaddy,
Yeah.
or yeah. So he's really meaningful, and I do have his permission to share these audios because
Oh, good to know.
when I picked him up at the airport, I said, can I chat with you for a minute over here? He said, yeah, what's going on? I said, I just needed to confess to you that I I've listened to your audios. They help me in this tremendous way over here. And he said, well, that's really great. I said, but I also have to confess that I'm I pirated a set. He laughed, and I was shocked that he laughed.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm surprised you're laughing. I said, I'm telling you, I pirated your tapes. He says, I make so much money because people pirate my tapes. But I'd had a check prepared for him to give him for the set of
No shit.
tapes
Yeah.
that I had duped from him. And he says, you don't need to do that. And I said, no, 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 I do need to do it because I need to check it off my list.
Right.
It's an accomplishment for me to pay for this. And so I have his permission to share those.
Oh, I love that. That's a great story.
$100 it's going to cost you for each of your two kids.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay them to anyway. That and books and so on. Anyway,
Well, let's end on that. We've got about an hour and a quarter. We've chatted here. We could
goodness,
easily go for another hour. I know you got a lifetime full of stories and stuff, but
yeah,
um, thanks again for doing this. It was a lot of fun, and
yeah, indeed.
say hi to your kids, and maybe we'll tee them up for an episode.
You certainly should. I didn't mention my photographer kid. He was diagnosed at age 7 with OCD, and he now does business with Indigenous Alberta, Tourism Alberta. He's done business with every airline in his photography company, and he's got a little staff and that kind of thing. And he's been published in Canadian Geographic, Japan
Yeah,
Geographic, and
Jay,
blah blah blah.
I see
Oh
his
yeah,
stuff
there
all
you
the
go.
time. Super talented.
Yeah, Rome Creative.
Yeah, good for
All
you.
right, Taylor, thanks for the invitation. Pleasure. Great to see you as
Pleasure's all
always.
mine,
And
Randall.
that was great fun. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, have a good
Take
night.
care. Cheers. You too.